So today I want to talk about and show you some examples of why we take photographs. I'm going to explore that question, if you like, about why a particular scene or set of circumstances inspires us to get the camera out and to compose a photograph. So I realized a little while ago that I was watching lots of videos from other photographers, both professional and amateur, and they all have some excellent advice, particularly about composition, or it might be about how you set up your camera or how you use your camera. But it occurred to me that actually very few talk about why they took a particular photograph. So very often you'll find yourself with a photographer and he's got his camera set up and he's taking you through the composition that he's found. But he rarely says why he took that particular photograph. Now I'm going to show you a few photographs that I took on a recent trip to France, and I thought it might be interesting to explore why I took those particular photographs. On this trip to France, we actually travelled right around France. We did over, I think it was over 3,500 miles travelling around France. But one of the first stops that we came to was the British Memorial at Normandy. An amazing place, well worth a visit. It's one of those places that you can generally relax and reflect and have some insight into what actually happened in that area on D-Day. Anyway, there are two photographs which I'm going to share with you in a minute. One photograph for me has a little bit of a story about it, and the second photograph is more about there was a situation, how could I make the best of it? So in this first photograph you'll see that there's a big wall with a commemorative inscription on it, and I was lucky enough to see a man standing in front of this wall reading the inscription. And I positioned myself so that to the left there's an aperture, like a big doorway that looks down towards the beaches, and in that aperture you can see a statue of three soldiers running towards the aperture, towards that doorway. To the right of the man there is a darker doorway. And for me, taking that photograph, the reason why I took that photograph and composed it in that way, it was because I felt there was a connection between what had happened in 1944 compared with the present day. So the soldiers were running towards the present day, and there was the man standing in front of this inscription, connecting the dots, as it were. So my second photograph was again of that statue of three soldiers, and I walked around it and I looked at it from afar, I looked at it close up, I got a few photographs, and then I realized that behind this statue there's quite a steep bank down, a steep grassy bank. So I explored that area behind the bank, and as I was walking along I remember thinking, there's a good photo here. There's a photo that I can attach some emotion to it. And as I walked behind the statue and crouched down a little bit, I could get rid of the plinth upon which the three soldiers stood. So what you see now is this almost like grass, well it is a grassy bank, and the soldiers running over the top towards the enemy. And even now, I'm talking about it now, it still makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It was an emotional moment. So the third photograph I'm going to show you is completely different. I like to read historical novels. So to go and visit the chateau at Baynac was a little bit special. It's a place where apparently Richard the Lionheart had stayed. But we were walking around the outside of the chateau, and we had the opportunity, of course, of walking inside the chateau. And this chateau is sort of perched high up on a rocky promontory, surrounded by steep cobbled streets and houses. It's quite an amazing place. And it overlooks a big bend in the Dordogne River. So we were walking around and we came across the dining room, which, as you can see from the photograph, has been set out. And I don't know what it was that compelled me to take a photograph other than the light coming through the window. The darkness, but the detail in shadows, the whole atmosphere of the room, I felt was quite extraordinary. So I managed to get what I think is a good photograph of that experience. Again, the why behind that photograph is more about my own personal experience of reading historical novels and being placed in a room with all the fittings, all the plates and everything else on the dining table, all the furnishings, just spoke to me. And it was a photograph I just had to take. I have just 3 more photographs to show you. And these photographs were all taken at Le Bourget du Lac. Fabulous place, so much to do and see. But it was a strange feeling that I couldn't really find much to photograph. It was very warm, upper 20 degrees centigrade, lovely atmosphere. Always felt very relaxed and happy to be there, but not much for me to photograph. Really strange, really strange. Anyway, some weather came in and that made all the difference. The light changed, the colours changed. So in this next photograph, you can see a view down the lake towards a rainstorm coming in. And what particularly struck me and why I took this photograph was the actual genuine colour of that water. It was extraordinary and contrasted so much with the rain coming in behind it. And literally within a few minutes, that colour was going to go as the rain came towards me. I suppose at the time of taking this shot, that rain was probably 2 or 3 miles away, but it was coming towards me quite rapidly and the light was constantly changing. So I guess in the main, I took this photograph because of the light and the extraordinary colour of the water. The 5th and penultimate photograph that I want to show you, again, is of that storm and the amazing light. Why I took this particular photograph was because of the contrast in the light, the brightness in the clouds, the darkness in the clouds, and the sort of mid-range of light, if there is such a thing, across the water. Little bits of darkness and so on. I thought it was a scene that seemed to have some energy, and I wanted to try and capture that energy. It was an extraordinary sort of few minutes really, because after about 30 minutes the storm had gone and the light reverted back to not necessarily flat but very bright and quite difficult to find compositions. So for those 2 shots, the importance of light actually made the shots. The final photograph I want to show you just struck me as a little bit humorous and really quite indicative of my sense of being in France. And you notice on the left a couple with the man playing guitar and singing. There's the tree in the middle with the bicycle leaning up against the fence and the tree. And to the right, there's a couple just looking out over the water and taking it all in. The main reason why I took that shot was because it was just felt so right. It felt that it explained Le Bourget du Lac on what it was all about. The ability to just sit quietly and reflect, take in the view. It was almost like the bicycle was having a rest along with the two couples sitting at the lake shore. So yeah, a lovely moment. So I think it's always important to find the why of a shot. It doesn't matter, of course, if there isn't a why, you just want to record and capture an amazing view, like I'm enjoying here today. Whatever it is. But if you can find the why, if you can explore the reason why you took that shot in the first place, what was it about that scene or those circumstances that led you to think, I want to take a shot of this, I want to capture this, I want to explore it. If you can latch into that, then all the skills that you have about composition and how you take your shot are all so easy. You know why you're taking the shot. Anyway, I hope that's been very useful and will encourage you to explore the why in your shots. And grab those opportunities. You know, don't just sort of let them go thinking, oh, I'm a bit embarrassed using my camera or whatever it might be that stops you taking the shot. If there's something that interests you, there's something that adds that little bit extra to the scene as far as you're concerned, then take the shot. Enjoy yourself. Okay, that's it for now. Hope you've enjoyed it and see you again soon. Bye.